Okay, so are you ready to dive in?
Always.
Great, because this one's a little surprising. Today, we're taking a deep dive into something that, well, is probably sitting in your house right now.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What is it?
Fans.
Fans.
Like ceiling fans.
Yeah, exactly. But here's the twist.
Yeah.
We're looking at the relationship to high blood pressure.
Really? Fans and high blood pressure.
Oh.
That's an interesting connection. I wouldn't have immediately put those two things together.
Right. You think of like diet, exercise, stress.
Exactly. Yeah.
But turns out that old wives' tale about fans being bad for folks with hypertension might actually have some science behind it.
Okay, now I'm really interested. I've actually heard people say that using fans can be bad for your health. Yeah. But I never really knew why.
Well, that's what we're here to find out. From what we've gathered from the research, it seems like there are three main concerns when it comes to fans and high blood pressure.
Correct. Lay them on me.
First, we've got excessive cooling. Then, respiratory discomfort.
Yeah. And lastly, dehydration.
Dehydration, huh? Okay, I'm already seeing how some of these could be linked to blood pressure, but I'm definitely curious to hear more.
Let's start with excessive cooling. So, I mean, we've all felt that blast of cold air from a fan.
Oh, yeah, definitely, especially on a hot day.
It feels great, but what's actually happening to our bodies when that happens?
Well, when that cold air hits your skin temperature drops, and it drops pretty rapidly. And studies have actually shown that this kind of rapid cooling can trigger your sympathetic nervous system.
Okay, and remind me, what does the sympathetic nervous system do again?
It's basically our fight or flight response. So when it's triggered, it causes, among other things, something called vasoconstriction.
Geez, a what?
Vasoconstriction. Basically, it means your blood vessels tighten up.
Okay, so the fan is making my blood vessels constrict.
In a way, yeah. It's your body's response to the sudden temperature change.
But wouldn't your body, adjust after a while? You get used to the fan blowing on you, right?
You would think so. And to a certain extent, yes, your body does adapt. But for someone who already has hypertension...
Meaning high blood pressure.
Exactly. Even that temporary vasoconstriction can be a problem because their blood vessels are already under more pressure than usual. So any extra strain can have an impact on their blood pressure.
Ah, okay. So it's not just about feeling cold. It's about this whole chain reaction happening in our bodies.
Exactly.
All right, let's move on to the next one then. Respiratory discomfort. How does that tie into high blood pressure?
So have you ever felt like you're having a hard time breathing when a fan's blowing directly on you?
Maybe a little.
Even if it's temporary, that feeling of restricted breathing can actually trigger a stress response in your body. And stress, as we all know, does not do good things for our blood pressure.
Yeah, stress is definitely not our friend.
Right. So when you're stressed, your body releases these hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, and those guys. They can cause your blood pressure to spike.
So it's like your body is thinking it's in a dangerous situation, even though it's just a fan.
Yeah, pretty much. It's that fight or flight response kicking in again. Your body's just trying to protect itself, but it ends up, sometimes doing more harm than good.
Fascinating. Okay, so we've covered excessive cooling, respiratory discomfort. Now on to the last one, dehydration. I'm not sure I quite get how that's connected to fans.
I get it. It's not as obvious as the other two, but think about what a fan does. It blows air. And when that air passes over your skin, especially if the air is already dry, it speeds up the evaporation of moisture from your skin, so you end up losing water more quickly.
So the fan is literally drying me out.
Yep, that's one way to put it.
But how does that affect blood pressure?
Well, when you're dehydrated, the volume of your blood actually decreases. Less blood volume means less pressure against your blood vessel walls.
So wouldn't that lower my blood pressure?
Initially, maybe. Yeah. But then your body tries to compensate. Your heart starts working harder to pump that remaining blood throughout your body. And, you guessed it, that can lead to an increase in blood pressure.
Oh, wow. So even something as simple as a fan can set off this whole cascade of effects in our body.
Isn't it amazing how interconnected everything is?
Yeah, it really is. But I'm starting to feel like I should just throw out all the fans in my house.
No, it's not that drastic. There are actually some really simple things you can do to minimize these potential risks if you have high blood pressure and still want to use a fan.
Okay, that's good to know. Give me the tips.
First, try to avoid having the fan blow directly on you. Point it towards a wall, or if it has an oscillating function, use that so the air isn't constantly hitting you.
Okay, that makes sense. What else?
Second, you want to make sure the air isn't too dry. A humidifier can help with this, but even just placing a bowl of water in the room can make a difference.
Good to know.
And lastly, pay attention to the overall room temperature. You want it to be comfortable, not too hot, not too cold.
So it's about being mindful and finding that balance, right?
Right.
This has been super informative. But before we wrap up, I think it's really important to say that if you do have hypertension and you're experiencing any kind of discomfort while using a fan, talk to your doctor.
Absolutely. Don't just ignore it. It's always better to be safe than sorry.
Right. So to recap, today we learned that the relationship between fans and high blood pressure is way more complex than it might seem. It's not just about the fan itself, it's about how our bodies react to temperature changes, airflow, even changes in our hydration levels.
It's easy to overlook the impact that everyday things can have on our health.
It really is. And it just shows how everything in our bodies is connected. But here's a thought for our listeners to ponder. We've talked a lot about the physical effects of airflow from fans, but what about the sound? Could the sound of a fan, even without the air blowing on you, affect your sleep?
Interesting.
And if it does, could that in turn affect your blood pressure? Something to think about.
I like it. Definitely something to consider.
All right, that's our deep dive into fans and high blood pressure. Thanks for joining us.
Until next time.